Hi, this lesson is about interrogative pronouns, how to make questions, part 1. Hola, esta clase es sobre pronombres interrogativos, cómo hacer preguntas, parte 1. Hi, welcome again to Spanish for London. I am Laura and today we will study how to make questions. Remember that this is part 1, then you have part 2. Okay, let's go. First, the vocab. You see here the important words to ask questions. Who, whose, how, where, etc. The words that are not here, which are que and cual, corresponding to what and which, are in the second part of this lesson. Okay, let's see. ¿Quién or quiénes mean who. You have quién for the singular, quiénes for the plural. The quién or the quiénes is whose. ¿Cómo, how, dónde, where. ¿A dónde, to where, and de dónde, from where. Then cuándo, when, cuánto, how much or how many, then we will distinguish this. ¿Para qué, for what, y por qué, why. Now, notice that when we are using these words to make a question, we always write an accent in all of them. This is mandatory in Spanish. When you are making a question, these words always carry an accent. And the other thing that is mandatory is to put the interrogative mark at the beginning and at the end of every single question. And it's the same with admiration marks. You have to put one at the beginning and another at the end. So again, ¿quién, quién es who? De quién es whose, cómo, how, dónde, where, a dónde, to where, de dónde, from where, cuándo, when, cuánto, how much, or in some cases how many, para qué, for what, and por qué, why. Then of course we will study the difference between para and por, but this is not the topic of this lesson. Okay, let's continue. As I told you, these words carry an accent when you are making a question. So if I ask you, for example, ¿qué es esto? What is this? I wrote an accent here. But notice that if I want to say, for example, it is the book that I bought yesterday, this that is translated as ¿qué? But without the accent, because this is not an interrogative form. So, es el libro que compré ayer. So there is a que without the accent, and there is a que with the accent. And we are studying today the forms with the accent, okay? But as you can see here, and in many other cases, accents are relevant in Spanish. So you have to respect them. And of course, I will teach you the rules to accentuate words in our classes about accentuation. Okay, let's continue. So now, let's see some examples. For example, ¿a dónde vamos hoy? ¿Al museo? ¿O vamos a la playa porque hace sol? So this is the question and this is the answer. So where do we go today? To the museum? ¿A dónde vamos hoy? Al museo. And the other person says, let's go to the beach because it's sunny. Vamos a la playa porque hace sol. So, ¿a dónde means where to? ¿Dónde is where, but ¿a dónde is where to? So if I ask you, where do you live? The question is, ¿dónde vives? But if I ask you, where are you going to? Es, ¿a dónde vas? Okay? Now, how do we go to the beach? ¿Cómo vamos a la playa? Well, we have to take a bus. Tenemos que tomar un autobús. So, ¿a dónde? Where to? ¿Cómo? How? Do you see? More examples. ¿Dónde está la parada de autobús? So, where is the bus stop? Remember that parar is to stop. So, bus stop es parada de autobús. Okay, ¿dónde está la parada de autobús? Where is the bus stop? Is at the corner of the hotel. Está en la esquina del hotel. And then another form which is very useful to make questions is how long, cuánto tiempo. Literally, cuánto tiempo means something like how much time. So to ask how long does it take, for example, a trip, you ask cuánto tiempo tarda. For example, we have to take the bus. Tenemos que tomar el autobús. Okay, how long does it take? ¿Cuánto tiempo tarda? Okay, it takes more or less 15 minutes. Tarda más o menos 15 minutos. Okay, so ¿dónde? Where? ¿Cuánto tiempo? How long? More questions. ¿Qué te parece si vamos en bicicleta? So, ¿qué te parece means what do you think? This is not a literal translation porque to think es pensar. So, what do you think would be ¿qué piensas? Which is literal, or ¿qué te parece? But the meaning is the same. So, when you want to ask a person what do you think about something, asking his or her opinion, you can ask ¿qué te parece? ¿Qué te parece si vamos en bicicleta? What do you think about going by bike? And I say, genial, es más divertido. So, great, is more fun. ¿Ok? ¿Qué te parece? What do you think? Or, ¿qué piensas? No, now, let's compare dónde, a dónde, and de dónde. Remember, dónde es where, a dónde es where to, and de dónde es where from. Ok, ¿dónde vives? Where do you live? ¿A dónde vas de vacaciones? Where do you go for holidays? Meaning to where. Or ¿de dónde son tus padres? Where are your parents from? Okay? Now, let's continue. ¿Cuándo? When? ¿Cuándo vamos a escalar las montañas? So, when do we go to climb the mountains? Vamos mañana en tren. So we go tomorrow by train. Okay? Now, ¿a qué hora? At what time? Remember that when we want to ask at what time something happens, we ask ¿a qué hora? So, ¿a qué hora almuerzas? At what time do you have lunch? ¿A qué hora cenas? At what time do you have dinner? ¿A qué hora es la fiesta? At what time is the party? ¿A qué hora sale el tren? At what time does the train depart? Sale a las 9 de la mañana. It departs at 9 a.m. Remember that to say a.m. we don't say a.m. because it's very, very formal. We say de la mañana instead. This is more natural in Spanish, definitely. Now, so, el tren sale a las 9 de la mañana. The train departs at 9 a.m. So, ¿de qué estación sale? So, from which station does it depart? ¿De qué estación sale? Sale de Paddington. It departs from Paddington. ¿A qué hora llega? At what time does it arrive? Llega por la tarde. It arrives in the afternoon. Remember that llegar means to arrive, but salir means to depart. So, ¿a qué hora sale means at what time does it depart? ¿A qué hora llega means at what time does it arrive? Good. Now, let's compare these two forms. ¿Por qué? Meaning why, and para qué? Meaning for what? Talking about the objective of something, of an action. For example, ¿por qué no vamos a correr al parque? Why don't we go to run to the park? Because it's raining, porque está lloviendo. Notice here that por qué are two separate words and the que carries an accent. And this is why, but because is porque, only one word and without the accent. This is important. Por qué. Notice that I pronounce in a different way. ¿Por qué? Why and por qué. Because. ¿Por qué no vamos a correr al parque? Porque está lloviendo. Good? Okay, now, ¿para qué quieres ir a correr? So, what is your objective? When you say in order to do something, you say para. For example, to be in a good shape. Para tener buena forma. In this case, we say para. So, ¿para qué quieres correr? For what do you want to go to run? Para tener buen estado físico. To be in good shape or in good physical shape or state, etc. So, para, in this case, means in order to or with the objective of. So, when you are asking for the cause or the reason of something, you say ¿por qué? But when you ask about the objective of an action, you ask ¿Para qué? Okay, so if I ask you, why are you sad? ¿Por qué estás triste? Because I am asking you about the reason. But if I ask you, for what do you study Spanish? ¿Para qué estudias español? I am asking about your objective. Okay. Now, if I want to ask how frequently do you do something, I say cada cuánto. ¿Cada cuánto corres? How frequently do you run? And you can say, for example, I run 3 times a week. Corro 3 veces por semana. By the way, if you want to say, talking about the frequency, 3 times a week, you say 3 veces por semana. 2 times a week, 2 veces por semana. Or once a month, una vez por mes. So as you can see, this word, veces, means times. But we have another word, which is tiempo. So tiempo means time, but in this context we don't use tiempo, we use veces. You have a specific lesson about this very important word. So to say sometimes, many times, once, twice, 3 times, etc., you have to use this word. So let's go to the lesson which is called ves. So V-E-Z, which is the singular form of this word, and you will have all the examples there. Now, quién and quiénes meaning who, singular and plural. Now, if I ask you who are you, I say quién eres tú. So, quién es who. Soy la profesora de español, I am the Spanish teacher, in my case. But if I ask you with whom do you live, for example, I put con in front, so con quién will be with whom do you live? And you say, vivo con mi marido, I say that. Vivo con mi marido, I live with my husband. Notice that if I put con in the question, I put con in the answer. So, con quién vas al cine? With whom do you go to the cinema? I go with my friend. Voy con mi amiga. Okay, now, if I ask you whose, ¿de quién es esa casa? So, whose is that house? Again, I put de in the question and I put de in the answer. Es la casa de mi hermana, meaning it is my sister's house. Okay. Now here, notice that meaning possession, we frequently use this structure in English, the S here meaning possession. But in Spanish, we don't have this feature, so it's not possible to say mi hermana casa. If you want to say it's my sister's house, and you say something like mi hermana casa, it's absolutely wrong in Spanish, and nobody will understand. You have to change the order and say la casa, then replace this with de, and then mi hermana. So first the thing, then de, and at the end you put the person. La casa de mi hermana. Okay? My sister's house. Now, ¿por quién fue construida? By whom was it built? I continue talking about the house, my sister's house, la casa de mi hermana. So, by whom was it built? ¿Por quién fue construida? In this case, ¿por quién is by whom? Okay? Fue construida por nuestro padre. It was built by our father. Okay? So, by, ¿por quién? By whom? Here. But, this is very important. Listen to this. Por, remember that por y para are little complicated words, so we have a specific lesson about por and para. In this particular case, por is by, but not always por is translated by, okay? Okay, now, to whom? ¿A quién invitas habitualmente? To whom do you invite usually? Habitualmente invito a mis amigos, so usually I invite my friends. You can say habitualmente or usualmente, both are correct with the same meaning. Now, for whom? ¿Para quién es ese pastel? Yeah, for whom is that cake? Es para mi hermano porque es su cumpleaños. So, it is for my brother because it is his birthday. Okay, and that's the end of the lesson. Of course, you have a lot of forms here, so I suggest to watch the video at least one more time, and then of course do and make all the exercises provided, and then go to part 2 where we will study the words corresponding to what and which. These words are a little complex, don't worry, it will be clear for you, but we need a specific lesson to study both. So see you next time. That's the end of the lesson. Nos vemos la próxima. Chau, chau.